Hello, leaders. Hey, this is Paul Grau, and welcome to Run to Your Leadership Challenges, the daily show that equips team leaders to lead through the challenges they face every day. So, let me ask you a question here. Have you ever feared diversity? Now, before you answer too quickly, consider that diversity, in its simplest definition, is something that is different. So, with that in mind, have you ever feared something different or new? Today, I want to discuss this and I want to give you a challenge that may entice some fear. First of all, I want to share with you that this show is sponsored by the CLC team, and they help turn stagnating and unhealthy teams into high performing and high producing unified teams by creating effective communication while minimizing conflict. If that's something that you and your team need, man, give us a call or visit clcteam.com, or you can email me directly at paul@clcteam.com. Okay, so I'm still excited about this light bulb moment that I had earlier in the week. And one of the blind spots that I uncovered was that fear has been a barrier to diversity for me throughout most of my life. I never gave it much thought, and I thought I was always welcome to diversity. But I found out that that wasn't necessarily the case. This discovery has had me trying to identify all of the things that I've missed out on because I was unconsciously fearful of the diversity that it may create. One of my fears was different perspectives and closing people out or simply just avoiding them altogether because I knew that they had different perspectives. I even created judgmental opinions of people who were different than me. And this is something that I'm not necessarily proud of at all. But I do feel that many of you listening may do similar things. Take, for instance, the last election that we went through here in the US. Many of you may have stopped following somebody on social media, or stopped listening to somebody, or just blocked somebody altogether because they may have had a different belief or opinion than yourself. I know for a fact that I grew very tired of all the media that was covering the election, and I simply tuned out much of it. The thing is, by tuning people out, I may have missed a chance to share my thoughts and or more importantly, hear somebody else's thoughts and perspectives that were different than mine. That's the kind of diversity that I feared. I'm not saying I would agree with other perspectives and opinions and beliefs, but I was guilty of not even wanting to listen. I also know many people who would never share their political affiliation on social media because they just didn't want to get into any conflict with anyone else. And the thing is, I didn't share a lot of information about it either because there were just so many people who were stereotyping the opposite side of themselves. And I was guilty of that too, to be truthful. Now, let me tell you something about stereotyping. You see, stereotyping in itself is not automatically bad. We all have stereotypes, and some of them might be good and helpful. It's a stage in the perspective process. However, when a stereotype is proven wrong and you continue to believe it, that's when it becomes a prejudice. And prejudices are never, ever, ever good because they're basically refusing to believe something that is factual. We must be cautious of using words like everyone and always because they are usually signs of a prejudice. And truthfully, they may seem like harmless prejudices, but all the same, they are prejudices. And prejudice is never good. Take, for instance, if you were a Trump voter and believed that every Biden voter was for every policy that Biden believed in, well, that's a stereotype that is a prejudice. I know plenty of Biden supporters who are flat out against many of his policies. The opposite is true as well. If you were a Biden voter and automatically assumed that every Trump voter was a racist and or agreed with everything Trump believed, well, once again, that's a stereotype that is a prejudice. I know plenty of Trump voters who just couldn't stand some of his behaviors and policies. We see a lot of people post things on social media who simply aren't afraid of sharing any of their perspectives, beliefs, and opinions, and sometimes they go overboard. However, many of them are not willing to even listen to somebody who has a different perspective, belief, or opinion from theirs. And when we don't listen to each other, we will never understand each other. I had some very close friends. Some were Biden supporters and some were Trump supporters. And yet many of them simply refused to discuss certain issues without screaming and shouting at each other. Other people chose to remain silent, maybe because of fear of learning something new that may prove their beliefs wrong, or maybe just to avoid any kind of conflict whatsoever. Today's challenge is to think about anything that you may have avoided because of fear of being different from your beliefs or fear of any conflict that it may bring about. When it comes to diversity and understanding things that are different from your beliefs and perspectives, man, be willing to face your fears and have open discussions about that diversity. And when I say open discussions, I mean go into the conversation with an open mind and a willingness to truly listen in order to understand where they're coming from. If you aren't doing that, I believe we're setting a bad example for our team members and family members and friends. So figure out what conversation that you need to have today and set a time and a place to have it. Push fear to the side and think bigger than the fear. We will never stop learning and growing. And remember, growth takes change. Change is a type of diversity, and diversity will always bring change, and it will give you new perspectives and understanding. Open your mind and listen without judgment. Hey, that's it for today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And as a reminder, if you're interested in joining our online community for leaders, that includes 4 Zoom calls a week and 2 new leadership video courses each month, man, please click on the link in the show notes or contact me directly at paul@clcteam.com to get more information. And I'd love to meet you. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, run to your challenges.